All right, welcome in. My name is Bryan Edwards, MajorWager.com, talking South Carolina Gamecocks for the 2019 season. Will Muschamp's team went 7-6, both straight up and against the spread last year. Very disappointing end to the season with just a total no-show against Virginia in the Belk Bowl. Granted, Deebo Samuel did not play to stay healthy for the NFL draft, but what a piss-poor showing that was, to put an exclamation point on what was otherwise a disappointing, or what was a disappointing season, period. After two seasons in which the Gamecocks had exceeded expectations under Will Muschamp. So now he goes into the fourth season of his tenure. He has taken South Carolina to bowl games 3 times. Again, they exceeded expectations his first 2 years. Last year, a disappointment, however. Okay, what is there to like about the 2019 Gamecocks? Well, you've got a senior quarterback in Jake Bentley, 4-year starter, 3.5-year starter. Came in after the open date when they had started 2-4. They took the red shirt off him, and he finished 4-2 to end the regular season back in 2016. So he's 19-13 and 32 career starts. Last year, he threw for 3,171 yards, a 27-14 TD-INT ratio. He obviously needs to get the INTs down a little bit. He's now thrown for 7,385 career yards, a 54-30 TD-INT ratio, and he can break Todd Ellis's school record for career passing yards if he can throw for 2,569 this year, and if he stays healthy, he should be able to do that. What else is there to like? Bryan, Mama can't spell Edwards. That means he spells it with a Y. Just outstanding wide receiver. He, like Bentley, has a chance to become the career leader in receiving yards at the University of South Carolina. He right now has 2,229 career receiving yards. And with 814 yards in 2019, he can break Alshon Jeffrey's record, which I believe Alshon did his in only 3 years. Yeah, he went pro a year early. So those are two things we like, Jake Bentley and Bryan Edwards. We also like the fact that we've got Javon Kinlaw, a potentially dominating defensive tackle. He dominated the Vanderbilt game last year. Tends to go away at times, however. But look, Javon Kinlaw, Phil Steele's got him ranked as the 5th best defensive tackle available for the NFL draft, what would be the 2020 NFL draft. We also got an outstanding linebacker in TJ Brunson, who had 106 tackles last season, 4 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3 QB hurries. He garnered second-team All-SEC honors. And we've also got a rising junior in Sherrod Green, who played extremely well as a sophomore last year, second on the team in tackles with 73, and he had 3 TFLs, which means tackle for loss. DJ Wanham was injured last year for most of the year. Excuse me. He did play in 5 games. Yeah, started 5 games, but the NCAA gave him another season. And so he's back. J.C. Horn is back, a true sophomore. Played very well as a true freshman last season. A lot of young guys got playing time in the secondary last year. There were parts in November where South Carolina had 9 defensive players out. A number of them were starters, and that's why they struggled late, giving up 56 to Clemson, 35 to Florida, 44 to Ole Miss, 35 to Missouri was a good bit earlier in the year. But anyhow, let's look at the schedule for the 2019 Gamecocks. And let me also point out they returned 50 lettermen, only lose 19, 7 starters back on each side of the ball, so that's 14 total. They have 3 lined games of the year. They are a 20.5-point home underdog to Alabama. That's a September 14th game. Alabama's first visit to Williams-Brice Stadium since Spurrier gave Saban one of his many pep slaps that he's dealt him career-wise. That was a 35-21 game. I had actually called that as my upset of the year at the VegasInsider.com summer of 2010 seminar out in Las Vegas, and it hit. Alabama, though, favored by 20.5 points in that game this year. The two other games of the year lined. These are at 5 dimes, by the way. At Tennessee is a pick'em, October 26th. South Carolina will be coming off playing at Georgia and hosting Florida in the previous weeks. And then Clemson in the regular season finale at home in Columbia, 21.5-point home underdog. So South Carolina, most publications, including Phil Steele's, have their schedule ranked as the toughest in the nation. The over-under on the win total for South Carolina is 6. It's shaded to the under at a -130 price. It's -110 if you like the over. When I look at South Carolina's schedule, I see 5 wins that I'm confident in. I see them beating North Carolina. That's obviously a week 1 game. That's obviously lined as well. -7.5. South Carolina is. That game's in Charlotte against the Tar Heels and Mac Brown's debut on round 2 in Chapel Hill. So I like South Carolina in that game and week 2 against Charleston Southern. I like them in week 5 at home against Kentucky. I think they also beat Vanderbilt at home, but it won't be a gimme by any means. Vandy gets 2 weeks to prepare for that game, and it'll be the 4th game in 4 weeks for South Carolina, and off a tough stretch of at Georgia, Florida at home, and at Tennessee. Appalachian State, as we know. Penn State knows. Tennessee knows. Wake Forest knows. Wake Forest went up to Boone a couple of years ago and was super lucky to escape with a 20-19 win, if memory serves, on that score. Special teams undid Scott Satterfield's team. Now, Satterfield has moved on to Louisville. There's a new coach at App State, but they are still one of the best group of 5 teams out there. They've got their quarterback, Zach Thomas, coming back, who was terrific last season up in Happy Valley, where Penn State had to rally to force overtime and then beat the Mountaineers in OT. But I do think South Carolina wins that game at home. I think they lose to Bama and Clemson at home. I think they lose at Georgia. Actually, that's a lined game as well. I believe 17.5 is the number I'm remembering there. So I'm sorry. So there are 4 games of the year. And 3 of them, they're double-digit dogs of 17.5 or more, which points to the schedule. So I have them losing, obviously, against Alabama, Clemson, at Georgia. No shame in any of those. And I have them losing at Texas A&M as well. And the Aggies, like Vanderbilt, get 2 weeks to prepare for South Carolina. And South Carolina will be playing their 6th game. Or I'm sorry, 6th game in 6 weeks. So then I have 3 swing games for South Carolina when they host Florida, when they're at Missouri in week 4, and at Tennessee. Although I think they'll probably win at Tennessee. And they certainly could win against Florida and could win at Missouri. But I'm a pass on the win total. I mean, I think they go at least 6-6, maybe 7-5. I think 8-4 is about their ceiling. It would be a shocker if they won the 3 aforementioned games where they're 17.5-point dog or more. And then at Texas A&M, you got to think there'll be at least a touchdown dog, perhaps more so. You know, obviously that's mid-November, November 16th, so we're a ways off from that. But I really think those 3 swing games will determine the fate of the 2019 South Carolina Gamecocks, and those 3 swing games again being at Missouri, Florida at home, and at Tennessee. I think it's 6-6 or 7-5 for the Gamecocks, but I like to have a 1.5 game cushion of confidence. In other words, if a team's win total is 6, I would, well, obviously you can't win 7.5 games, but I would want confidence in them going 8-4 or going 4-8, and then I would look at the under. But again, I think you'll get the push and maybe win. So if I had to pick it, I would go over, but I'm going to leave that one alone. What else on the Gamecocks? I will point out their unit rankings. And by the way, you can check out my preview of the Gamecocks on MajorWager.com. Probably be on the homepage another day or 2, 3. If not, you just go to our college football arena. I will point out their unit rankings in the SEC and nationally via Phil Steele magazine. Quarterback, number 23 nationally, number 6 in the SEC. O-line, number 8 in the SEC, number 36 nationally. Wide receiver, number 31 nationally, number 8 in the SEC. Running backs, unranked nationally, number 13 in the SEC, which I think is garbage. Rico Dowdle and Mo Denson and A.J. Turner all averaged better than 5 yards, or at least 5 yards a carry last season. I'm looking at Denson's stats. Yeah, 5.0 yards per carry. Now, Turner moved to the secondary in the spring, so we'll see how long that lasts. Back in the unit rankings, D-line, number 14 in the nationally, number 5 SEC. Special teams, 8th SEC, 29th nationally. Secondary, number 46 nationally, number 7 in the number 7 in the SEC. And at the linebacker position, number 7 in the SEC, number 31 nationally. And chemistry-wise, SEC number 5. A couple of quick tidbits before we close things out here. South Carolina has covered in 6 consecutive games as a road underdog in Muschamp's first 3 seasons, 22-17, both straight up and against the spread. He is undefeated as a head coach against Tennessee, 7-0 against the Vols. Get some of that, Rocky Top. Look at my man, Coach Boom. 5 Dimes has Bentley listed with 150 to 1, odds to win the Heisman Trophy. And 1-2 against the spread and 0-3 straight up against Georgia and Clemson on Muschamp's watch. All of those losses by 14 points or more. It would be nice if he got that corrected. Daunting task, though. 2 very good football teams in Georgia and Clemson. All right, I'm Bryan Edwards, MajorWager.com. That's our preview of the South Carolina Gamecocks. Over now.